should any common man, an average man. Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
Okay, calm down.
He has no chance.
I think we have a very good mix right now. I mean, the morning show does well, comparatively speaking, especially given what it has to go against. Dubers and I have done well, knock on wood, for 4 years. Common and Hartman have done okay, and Barrero is, in my estimation, the primetime player on our station, and cultivating a couple of kids in Sludge and Lake, and we have the Vikings and maybe some things down the road. So I think we're strong right now.
Yes, Vikings ball. Let's play. Let's play. Let's play. Let's play.
And Peyton Manning takes the knee for the third straight time, and that should do it, folks. The final score of Super Bowl 41, the Colts 29, the Bears 17, and look at the pandemonium from the Indianapolis sideline down here in Miami. Colts spilling onto the field. Oh, and there we go, the Gatorade bath for Coach Tony Dungy, and it's Mike Doss applying the Gatorade bath. Good to hear from Mike Doss tonight as the Colts are your Super Bowl 41 champions.
I always love that one.
You like that? You like that? How do you like me now? How do you like me now?
Now what do you think? What do you think of that?
Capriza.
You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, I always love that one.
He's the clown from Brown.
Correct.
He's the fourth in the north.
Correct.
This is the common man, Dan Cole.
I've never explained it on air. Maybe I did many years ago because I've been asked before. Many of the sound bites we play during the open of the Common Man program, and remember, no Common Man program open has ever been exactly the same. Unless Tennessee has thrown me for a loop and like tomorrow, this of course will be part of a podcast. He'll play the exact same open again, but I don't think it's ever been done, and that would be different than any other show in the country because we have all these different sound bites we drop in, and some of them they've been around for so long you even forget where they originated. And you played the Mike Doss. That was a fake highlight that was done by JG, and the reason tell me if I'm correct here, if my memory is spot on or if it's slipping. The Vikings acquired Mike Doss, and the Wilf Wallet Watchers were talking about how great it was because he had Super Bowl experience.
Yes.
And it's like, we went back and found out he never got into the game. He rode the bench the entire time.
He didn't play.
Right, he didn't even play. So it's like, you're trying too hard to make it look like a great acquisition, a guy that's got big game experience, that he was in the right crunch time in the fourth quarter. He's on the bench the entire time. And so then we wanted to say, well, here was his this is what a Richard I was. I said, well, how about for big game experience, we have him providing the Gatorade bath for Tony Dungy. So he did see some action. He dumped Tony Dungy.
Good to hear from Mike Doss.
Good to hear from Mike Doss today. So that's where that originated. And we still love it. It's just so good. That was played one of the last sound bites leading into the beginning of the Grum today, which is coming away in 5. Well, actually 3, but Southside more 4 than 2. Because I think I'm not going to say we'll be football intensive today, but Tennessee, it's a big day today. It's National Football League schedule release day. And as I think most people are well aware, Doesn't everybody know what the schedules are right now? Pretty much every game for every team. There might be one or two that, I'm not sure if they play Atlanta week 2 or week 4. Otherwise, it's all been laid out.
There's been lots of leakage.
Including, I have lots of leakage when I use the restroom, but that's just because I'm getting old now.
No!
It happens when you get old, trust me. Though having your scrotum elevated helps that because water just doesn't necessarily go up. It always goes down. I think there's like one river in the entire world, maybe 2, that run south, that flow south to north. Did you know that? Every other river in the world flows north to south, but there is like 1 or 2 rivers in the world, not 2 rivers up in the school over there that they changed the name because it was called Hank Sibley. They changed it from Hank Sibley. Was Hank Sibley was he a slave owner or did he do some nasty things to Native Americans?
Also did something offensive,
yeah. Back in the day. Now they call it 2 Rivers, I think. But what was I talking about?
Schedule release, all the leakage. He talked about
leakage and scrotum, elevated scrotum. Yeah. 2 rivers. Rivers flow north. They flow south. Only 2 of them in the world. Maybe you can IHOP that and see if I'm right. Just IHOP. Are there any rivers that flow south to north? I had a number of people, including Mark Rosen, say schedule release. Lions will open the season. They will play the first game of the season, the first televised game, September 7th, opening night, Thursday at Arrowhead against the Chiefs. And my response to anybody who's texting me that Tennessee is this has disaster written all over it. The Lions are really, I think Dan Campbell and what's that show called on HBO, Knockout? The football show.
There are many more rivers that flow north.
Are there really?
Than 2.
Oh, I thought it was just
the Nile flows north.
I think you're just in denial, is what you are. What's the name of that TV show where they go to training?
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. The Lions were a part of Hard Knocks last year. Maybe it was the year before, and everybody just loved Danny Campbell's approach, and about biting kneecaps. And, then they had the awful start to the season, 1-6. Then all of a sudden they went on a roll, went 8-10, kept Green Bay from getting in, played a tough-nosed brand of football, right? Matter of fact, they seem as though they're trying to go against the grain right now, Tim. If you notice, here's their draft picks. Running back, tight end, and what else did they get in their first 3 picks? They went running back, tight end, and offensive lineman, I think. They're going back. They want to just grind it out and do smash mouth football. They didn't get some fancy pants wide out or anything like that. They've decided they want to return to the thrilling days of yesteryear. Whether that works or not, I don't know. But they
had the middle linebacker.
Oh, that's it.
From Iowa.
Middle linebacker. That's what it was. So, and when you get a middle linebacker, you're playing hard nose. Back in my day, kind of a football. And that's what Danny Campbell likes to play. It sort of reminds me in an odd way, in a roundabout way, of the Minnesota Timberwolves decided we're going to turn back time. I think it was a song by Cher. When we turn back time. We're going to turn back time, and we're going to put 2 big men on the court at the same time and see if they can stop us. And a lot of teams didn't have much trouble stopping them. Of course, we know they didn't play as many games together as we thought, blah, blah, blah. But whether it works for the kiddies or not remains to be seen. But because of Danny Campbell appears to be a very colorful. Oh, I'm being told every river south of the equator flows south to north.
I would have thought that.
I wouldn't have.
Apparently the Red River, the one that separates Minnesota from North Dakota, goes north.
And I remember the Red River Valley. And the Red River flows north. North flows through Fargo and Grand Forks. I had no idea. More than 2 rivers. Please look up the Laurentian Divide. The Laurentian Divide, named after Laurentis, who played linebacker at Ohio State and later for the Rams. Campbell's a colorful character and people like him, right? And then that team won 8 of their last 10, and they did so in exciting fashion. Their defense was very Viking-like. Their defense, I think they were battling the Vikings for like worst defense in the NFC, maybe in the entire NFL. But their offense, they scored points, won 8 of 10, prevented Green Bay in Aaron Rodgers' last. I didn't even think about that. I was in attendance, Deuce and I, for Aaron Rodgers' final game as a Green Bay Packer quarterback that ended in abject failure. Not only for the failure for the Packers, abject failure for Rodgers. That last throw he made was a throw that he didn't intend on complete. He didn't care. He just went he dropped back to pass. He knew the game was over. He knew his career there was over. He just dropped back and he just threw it up in the air as high as he could as a jump ball and said, if somebody gets it, I'll stay out here for the next play, but I'm hoping a Lions player picks it off, which is exactly what happened, and that was the end of the game. He didn't care at that point. You think I mail it in on a Monday or FedEx it on a Friday? He was mailing that game in. I was at the very last Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packer quarterback, Aaron Rodgers quarterback game. But so that's why the Lions got the Thursday night game. Here's another leak. Did you hear this too? The Vikings are going to play the Lions twice in a 3-week period at the end of the season.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's
average at that.
It's like at Pontiac, then we play somebody else, and then it's at Goose 2.0 or vice versa. Maybe it's Goose 2. But we're going to play them.
I don't like that. Rather spread them out a little bit.
Why don't you call Roselle and see if he'll change them? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably not great, but that's what they're going to do. And that's what I've been told. Did you hear that?
I did not hear that. No.
That's what I heard. Now, again, that was my source. My sources aren't always correct, as you know. Many of my sources are spot on, including the source that told me Brett Favre, even though he was listed as out, would be playing that Tuesday night game at TCF Bank Stadium, the Vault, as we like to call it, his last game ever in a Minnesota Vikings. Not just Minnesota Vikings, it was his last game ever where he was knocked unconscious on the concrete ground that is, the concrete turf that is the Vault.
All I know is if I had a genie's bottle and had a wish, I wish it would be 7 o'clock and I could be listening to Meat Sauce and Nordo revealing the Vikings schedule.
Are they doing a reveal
7
show?
o'clock tonight. If I could turn forward time.
Does Meat Sauce do that on his own volition? I mean, he's got to wake up early in the morning to go on. Is he like doing that, or do they just go, Sauce, you're kind of our football guy now? Think about it. He's our football guy.
That's our representation.
He's the guy. Think about it. He does pregame. He took my place in the pregame.
Yeah.
He bounced my butt right out of there. He does the pregame. He also does, he's considered our Mel Kiper.
Does his own meat mocks.
And now he's doing the schedule release. He's never watched an NFL game before. We'll take a break. We'll come back. A couple of other leaks that I want to get to. We'll do that next. Common Man Program on the Fan.
KFAN, the Fan.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Brad, Sean, Brian text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Or if you would rather have it heard in your own words, well, you can use the KFAN. If you have the iHeartRadio app, you'll see a microphone icon in the corner of the screen. You click it. You have 30 seconds to deliver common intent to be, and Mark Rosen when he's here, a message. 30 seconds or less. And there's always, of course, booth at KFAN.com. To have the schedule released right now. So, I think you brought this up yesterday, and someone sent me the entire breakdown of the linear travel mileage in store for all 32 NFL teams for the 2023 2024 regular season. The numbers include mileage for teams playing in the 5 NFL international games this season as well. So that's a lot of miles. I mean, you think it's a long way to go you think it's 6,000 miles to fly from Green Bay to Seattle. How much do you think it's to go from Green Bay to London, England, or to Dusseldorf, where they're playing on the site of an old ball bearing plant? We'll use this, and throughout the season, we'll track the teams. Like you would think if travel is that difficult, the Seahawks might not win a game all year.
They should be 3-14.
Yeah, and San Francisco, as good as they are, no chance. They're done so. Which reminds me, I had several people. We started playing the sound that I told you, just dump it. This is so preposterous. It was Greenberg doing his best Al Gore. Mike Greenberg used to be of Mike and Mike. Yep. He was doing his best Al Gore impersonation. We played the Al Gore one for you. He thought Obama lost the first debate against Romney because, I'm about to say something controversial. Romney had been in Denver preparing for the date for days. Obama flew in the first day of the debate. So apparently the altitude got to Obama. I think more than that got to him, but that's another story within itself. So then he went with the disadvantage for who's the Heat? Knickerbockers are playing the Heat.
Yeah.
He said, well, the heat and humidity down there, that works against New York because they're not used to it. The Knickerbockers said, does Mike know that they play in a climate-controlled arena? Does he realize they fly in a climate-controlled charter jet? They're in a climate-controlled team bus that takes them from the airport to the hotel. And the hotel, last I checked, is climate-controlled. Then they get back on a climate-controlled bus and go to a climate-controlled arena and play. They're not playing outdoors under the blazing sun. How does he even come up with something like that? If that was the case, then Miami would always get out of anytime they were at home. Have they ever lost a home game? That's what I'd like to know. It's just so preposterous. It's that people try too hard, and I get it. After a while, it's probably the people that do it are the ones that, like me, that actually, after a while, get tired of the old sports cliches. Hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. You know, their record, when they play a night game after a day game under cloudy skies, it's been Steve Kerr, he's 7-2 in elimination. So none of that really makes much of a difference. It's interesting, and you can use it as fodder, but it doesn't mean anything. My guess is San Francisco is going to have a really good year this year, despite the travel. But maybe not, because they don't even know for sure who their quarterback is, do they? Or is it going to be...
If healthy, it's going to be Brock Purdy.
You think it will be Brock Purdy?
There's still questions about his health.
So we'll see if that is indeed the case.
And if there was something to the heat theory in Miami, if you're outside, it saps your energy. To your point, the coaches and trainers would just say, hey, guys, let's not be spending time outside. Let's make sure we're hanging out in our hotel room. Let's make sure we're going to restaurants that are air-conditioned, controlled. Don't be hanging out at the beach where you can get your energy zapped.
And teams that are serious about winning a ship, you wouldn't even need to tell them that.
Yeah,
but
especially in the playoffs,
right, yeah. But you could certainly remind them of that. Tennessee, I know you love schedule release day. I love schedule release day. Sauce and Nordo obviously do. I think JG is a big fan of it as well. I'm actually a bigger fan of 2 days after the schedule release. And then my next favorite day is 1 day after the schedule release. And then my favorite day is schedule release day. I like the 2 days after it better. Much like the National Football League draft. Day 3 of the draft is better than day 2, and day 2 is better than day 1.
My favorite for schedules is day 2, because then on the air, we had to go through each game and go win or loss.
Win or loss.
Come up with a record.
Win or loss, win or loss. Here's another, and again, there's no harm in doing this. And I will say that there is something to when looking at a schedule going, they go, strength of schedule is always a big talking point, right? People love to talk about, look at the strength of schedule. If you look at who the Vikings play this year, you combine, take the teams they're playing, they'll be playing 17 games, take their 17 opponents and and combine their won and loss records and see what it is. And I think the Vikings' opponents were like 143 and 146. So they rank as one of the so-called easier schedules in the National Football League. And that's another one where I put a little more stock into that because teams generally don't make dramatic changes from year to year, though we have seen that. We've seen first to worst and worst to first and everything in between. But you're going strictly basically on how the team played last year with the addition of a couple of draft picks that you really don't know if they're going to play or not. And again, you don't know if, like, for instance, let's say the Vikings are scheduled to play. They have the Saints on their schedule, right? Were the Saints relatively mediocre last year?
Yeah, middle of the road.
So now what if the Saints this year, let's say the Vikings play them in Week 10. Let's say they're off to an 8-1 start. Well, now that's not a weak part of the schedule anymore. That's a really strong part of the schedule. So the whole idea, and I know, like I say, the Saints probably aren't going 8-1. Now, I don't think they're going to. But that's the problem with strengths of schedule. It's sort of like mock drafts. It's kind of fun. You know what positions teams are probably looking for. So you kind of take a guess. Boy, they're drafting 6th, and they really need some help on defense. I bet they draft a defensive guy, so it's pretty easy to do. So the strength of schedule.
Am I the only one who thinks the Vikings schedule is going to be really difficult this year? I know.
I agreed with you yesterday.
I know when you look at the strength of schedule numbers, they're like middle of the pack. And it's weird to see Chicago basically right at the same spot. And the reason for that is because the Vikings have Chicago on their schedule, and the Chicago has an overinflated 13-4 Vikings on their schedule twice. But the Vikings not only have to play the AFC West with Kansas City, Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos. I think that's a pretty relatively tough division. They've got San Francisco, Philadelphia, and that new 17th game they have to play Cincinnati. Yep. I mean, there's some difficult games there. I get their division's not the most difficult, and they've got the NFC South.
Philly, Kansas City, Cincinnati, and
San Fran.
And again, you're right, because I talked about that yesterday. I think maybe Rosen brought it up, and that's what I said. Because I think Rosen went with and that's fine. A lot of people do. Well, they got an easier schedule when you look at strength of schedule. Those 4 games could eat. Now, we could win 1 or 2 of them. I guess we could sweep them. I suppose it's possible. But you look at those games, if you're being realistic,
that's
and
dicey.
again, you're going by off of last year. A lot of it is off of last year, but those teams haven't changed much. That's looking like 1 and 3 to me, And again, and then like you say, the West is tough. You lose a couple of those, lose once to each Central Division team. You're looking at 7 or 8 losses. Sorry. Now, stranger things have happened, and maybe you pull the fat out of the fire on some of those games, like the Vikings did last year, and go 13-4. But it's controversial. I can't believe we're even talking about it. We better pause. Come back. I want to talk about dynamic leads and see if we had one today involving me. I'll explain. Other side of the break, Common Man program. Right here on the Fan.
KFAN.
KFAN and Busch Light bring you Fan on the Farm. All this month, PA will be taking your tractor talkbacks. Each day, one farmer will be chosen to receive a Busch Light prize pack and $150 to restock your fridge with Busch Light, a proud supporter of the farming community. Busch Light, crack a cold one.
No one can even begin to tell her.
Giving him some oats and beans and barley to plant instead. That's not to say that having a ice cold isn't a fine idea either.
I'm sure he'd tell her.
Henry Gross will not be performing tonight, and the crowd just erupted with cheers. Can you hit that to me? Come on, Mr. Falsetto.
I don't know the words of the song.
She always loved
Yours is pretty good.
Here we go. Shannon is gone. Go ahead. That's not the words, but you can still do it. You do have that falsetto. That's very, very good. Somebody wanted to hear this.
Straight up. cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out, 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 cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out, cash in, cash out.
Brian in Michigan, he's texting from Michigan on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. Dynamic lead is something that if you ever go to KFAN.com, to our website, and you look at all the stories we have, and my guess is most things on KFAN.com are Power Trip related, right? It's the only show we care about. One time, the program director got admonished because something on the dynamic lead didn't sit well with a member of the fan, and they said someone's either lazy, stupid, or both, but that's neither here nor there. Did Power Trip bets, did they report on our bet result, Rosen and I, our $4 bet? Did they report on that today?
I'd have to look at their Twitter account.
Would that be their dynamic lead on their Twitter account? I lost a $4 bet to Rosen yesterday. I said the Lakers would dispose of the Golden State Warriors last night. They would end the Warriors season by winning Game 5 and winning with call it a gentleman's sweep.
They posted it 6 hours ago.
Okay. So it was posted immediately following I lose the $4. And I knew that's why I didn't see Tenebee. $4 is a good value bet. 12, not a chance. Because, again, Golden State at home, Custer's last stand, that whole thing. You figured you would get their best game. The Lakers were down big early. They rallied back not only to tie, but they took the lead. And then eventually the Warriors held on to win. Now,
by the way, before you move on,
yep.
Power Trip Bets tweeted, most on-air bets placed by KFAN personalities over the last month. Meat Sauce 1, Corey Cove 2, Rosen 3, Common Man 4. Tommy Olson 5th.
Yeah, I'm starting to get the...
You're 4th on the fan this month.
Yeah. Of course, the grand total of my bets equal about...
$20.
About $20, but give me $20, give me $20. It's... What were we just talking about?
Lakers lost to the Warriors.
Now, let me ask you this. I know that Street Clothes went out last night.
Yes.
When he hit he conked his noggin. If he's out, they're done. I don't think they can win without Street Clothes. Do we know if he's going to play? Is he going to have to go concussion protocol?
Don't know yet, but...
Because if he's out, I mean...
That's a game changer.
It's a series changer.
Yeah.
Is what it is. I don't think they can win without him. And then my $12 bet is gone. My brilliance of picking the Lakers to win the NBA championship on opening night will go by the wayside. But that's what happens in the National Football League. Here's a text message that says, can you play Betty ripping Mark? Thank you. And Mark Rosen is a fraud. Well, she doesn't really rip them. She's ripping the twins is what she's doing. It is very
Mark,
good.
They can't pitch. They can't hit. What is with... I mean, come on.
They won last night. They in extra innings, they won 4-3. Again, I've stated this before, and I will never change my mind on this. I don't mind the pitch clock. It's, I was skeptical of it first, loved it. Then I called for the abolishment of it because games were going too fast. I was barely able to sit down and get comfortable with my bowl of vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce and bananas cut up on top, and the game was already over. It was going too fast for my liking. But I'm all right with it now. But I'll never change on that. Let's put the ghost runner on second base. Let's just give them the complimentary runner. I call it the complimentary runner on second base. And it does. I know what it's destined to do. You don't want 13, 14 inning games, and we don't see many 13, 14 inning games.
Not anymore, no.
But the Twins tried to give that one away. That was a game where, again, they just have trouble closing people out, have had all year, really, for the most part. They had trouble again last night. But they do end up winning the game. And here's what I don't understand, and maybe I'm misremembering what happened last night. They've got a guy on second to start. I think this was the inning. It went to 11, right? And the Twins won in the 11th.
Went to 11, yeah.
So I don't know if this was in the 10th inning or the 11th. I think it was in the 11th when they won. They intentionally walked Byron Buxton, terrified of Byron. And I'm thinking to myself, have you watched him play this year? I was delighted. I mean, because I was delighted when they walked him to get to Kirilloff. And is the manager not watching? He goes, well, Buxton has struggled today. Kirilloff has hit a home run. And he's also, I think he had a double. I mean, he was playing very well. And sure enough, Kirilloff, game-winning hit down the first base line. So that was a game that I think was assisted by bad managing, if I have it straight. Maybe.
Now, I did not see the game.
Okay.
I was playing old men hockey, but...
How'd that go?
Not good for us. But I'm guessing part of the reason you're walking Buxton is because they start the inning with someone at second, so you can get a force out, get a double play possibility.
Yeah, that could be. I would pitch because he's just going to try to hit a home run. You're going to get him to pop out. And then I would walk Kirilloff because he's the one that's been killing you. He's the one that had the really big the really big game. And did I hear this right? Did this is why I don't think Streetclothes is going to play. Because didn't they wheel him off in a wheelchair? Did you hear that? He had to get into a wheelchair in order to get him back to the...
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when I had hernia surgery and came in 2 days later, they didn't even need to have a wheelchair to get me in here. And he needed a wheelchair. So that leads me to believe... I mean, it's just the... What's that word I'm looking for? It's the visual. It's the... What's that phrase I'm thinking about tend to be... I can't, there's a phrase, and maybe someone will help me with it, but just seeing somebody wheeled out in a wheelchair is going to lead medical people to go, well, this guy must have got really hit on the head hard. You know, sometimes you can just bounce right up and go, it's no big deal. And they just go, yeah, I guess you're fine. That's okay. But when you hit your head and then they have to push you out in a wheelchair, well, the medical people are going to go, this guy must have really got his belt wrong. And now they're really going to take a close look. I don't think he'll play the next game. You don't get wheeled out in a wheelchair with a head injury and then play 2 days later. I don't think you do. I think Streetclothes is out. And that means I'm going to owe Rosen another $12.
And he's been a strength against the Warriors' biggest weakness, which is that interior defense.
And that's what you've summed it up, and you are... it was Correa they walked intentionally, not Buxton. Okay, Correa. That's what I meant.
Same thing.
Yeah. And did you see what Correa did last night? And it didn't end up hurting him. He hits one that looks like it's going out of the park. And, of course, he just stares at it.
Yeah.
The bat and going all of a sudden, no, it's off the wall. You might want to start running. He did get to second base, so it worked out. But it's like you can't stand there and admire you. They all want to flex and admire. You got to run that out, man.
Well, so we didn't even talk about this one. When they played the Royals, I went to the Royals Saturday game, whenever that was, week and a half ago. And Jorge Polanco hits one to right that ends up hitting the very top part of the wall and comes back into play.
Yeah.
And Polanco is just jogging around first as if he's convinced it's the home run.
Correct.
Right fielder is clearly going, I think this wasn't a home run. I'm going to play it in. Polanco sees the ball being thrown from right field and still just jogs because he's just being lazy as heck. Just an assumption that, it's got to be a home run. No, run and get to second base. And if they call it a home run after, then fine. But he ends up being out at second base when they would have had a double in the first inning. It's just, sometimes these guys are just so beyond lazy. Tom Kelly wouldn't put up with any of the stuff that they do now. They don't run out stuff to first base anymore.
It's the optics. It's the optics. That's the word I was looking for. The optics of being wheeled out in a wheelchair. It's the optics. No, there was a time. So the Miranda guy gets sent down. He had 3, and I'm not going to say there were routine grounders to third. This was over the weekend. I think it was the weekend, or maybe it was the Monday game. Regardless of when the game was, Tuesday, Sunday night, Monday night. And then he hasn't been hitting very well, and he gets sent down. He had 3 botched fielding plays. The team just has... Didn't Kelly there were times where he would just make the team after the game go out and take fielding practice? I think he did. I think he did. It's just like, sometimes it's like even today in the Fish Wrap Factory West Side, it was after, I think, the 3-error game where apparently Baldelli, I don't know if it was a closed door meeting, but he met with the team and he said, you got to kind of pick and choose your spots when you meet with the team and talk to them, because if you're doing it after every game or every other game, it does kind of lose its
162 games.
Right. And so, but he decided to that this was probably time to, because it does seem that like the team, and again, this would be, I'll use the word optics again. This is just the optics of what you see on the field leads you to believe that their mind isn't always in the game, but I don't know how it can't be. It's what you do. It's games on, play 2.5 hours and move on with your life. But they really have struggled, but they did win last night. The Guardians are just as, that's the other thing. It is such an awful division. The Guardians lost. I believe they did. Weren't they down 5? They lost to the Tigers, did they not? I think they were trailing 5-0 at one point, unless I was seeing the scoreboard in reverse. But I thought that they were losing. And so despite the fact the Twins, really haven't been playing very good baseball, pitching's been okay. We know that for the most part.
The Tigers won 5-0 last night. So Tigers are now in second place by a half game.
And how much did they trail the Twins by? 3.5 or 4?
2.5 behind the Twins.
Only 2.5. I told Rosen the other day not to sleep on Detroit, and he guffawed. 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 He guffawed and said, no, they're not good. And, it's I don't write off anybody in the Central. I really don't. Except for Kansas City. Even the White Sox. You brought it up yesterday.
Guffaw.
A loud, unrestrained burst of laughter.
Yeah. He guffawed.
To laugh loudly and boisterously.
Yeah, he just guffawed when I suggested that Detroit don't sleep on the Motor City Kitties MLB version. And you brought it up. You're right. I think you were spot on yesterday when you said, look, White Sox have an awful record, but it's early and they're only like 6 games out or something like that. And 6 is a lot, but at this stage of the season, it's not a lot.
Now 7.5 after yesterday.
So Chicago's out of it then. Okay. There goes that. Common, I don't understand the ghost runner. Doesn't having a runner at second, regardless of the team, mean both teams have an equal chance to score? Right. I don't know what he's trying to say here. They do have an equal chance to score. What I don't like is the idea.
The home team has the edge, though, even more so than a normal extra inning.
Really? I guess I hadn't thought I'd go ahead.
Well, because you can see what happens.
Oh, right.
In the first inning. If you don't allow a run, now you can play for 1 run. Whereas, you can do the sacrifice game. Whereas if you're in the top of the inning, you might go, well, 1 run might not be enough because we're starting with someone at second. So you might be playing more for 2, 3 runs. Whereas the bottom of the inning, how many runs you need to get. So, or even in the top inning, if you're sacrificing, well, then you're kind of playing for a run. But then the bottom of the inning, they go, well, we need 2, so we're not doing the sacrificer, right?
Do you think most people realize that, my name is at the top of the marquee, but you're the brains of the operation? No, because I didn't even think about it. And that's something normally I would. I like to look for those. That's absolutely right. It's sort of like, in overtime in football, when you go, I got to go for it on 4th down now. Yeah. I mean, I can't punt
when you get the ball second, you've got 4 downs to work with.
Yes.
And the team that gets it first has 3 downs to work with.
That's even a better reason for no ghost runner. And here's the other part. The games are 30 minutes shorter now anyway, so what if you play a couple of extra innings and you add another 10, 12 minutes, 15, 20 minutes? You'll just go back to a 3-hour game. It's not that big of a deal. I just don't like what I suggested a couple of weeks ago. Why don't we just put the ball on a batting tee, too, to make sure that these guys can get a hold of the baseball and get it out into play? Because all you're trying
that might work for our offense.
Well, even then, I think we might lead the league in strikeouts. But hold on. You know what? We're going to get things turned around. It's just a June swoon that came in May. We'll be all right. Things will get a lot better. So, I don't know. The Twins are playing a getaway game today. I don't want to dwell on it too much.
I will speak, and obviously it's easy to say after last night, but the complaining about Carlos Correa in this town the last couple days, like, do we not know how baseball works yet? Like, it's been a month and change.
Yeah.
The guy has been a consistently good hitter his entire career. Consistently good. He kind of did the same thing last year where he's pretty mediocre the first half of the season, then turned it on the second half of the season. Like, he's going to be fine. We got to stop taking little 1-month sample sizes and just, I get he signed the big contract, and we get so insecure about that here in this state. He'll be fine.
Well, I do think there is.
The guy's been a hitter his whole life, and he's still in his prime. It's not like he's 36 years old and he's falling off the cliff here. I
really did until I started reading message boards and comment boards on websites. I used to think I was the only guy that did the knee-jerk reaction. Guy goes 0 for 4 and I want to trade him. He goes 3 for 4 and I think he should be given a long-term contract extension. They should, build a statue for him. But when you read those, and I wonder if it is just people trolling, because I've seen it. They're destroying anybody that struggles. They destroy, and it can be just one game they have bad. They say, "See, I told you." The worst is Cousins. The worst. I mean, he's 3 out of every 4 are rip jobs on Cousins, and you would basically think he's the devil incarnate. You ever heard that phrase?
Yes.
Yeah. And what does that mean? He's reincarnated as the devil or something? I don't know. It just means he's the worst thing ever. He's got a pointy tail. He likes devil delight. So
I just think the most extreme viewpoints are the loudest.
Yeah. And I think, that's it. I think so. I think you're right. And, if
you're lukewarm on somebody, you're not going to go online and start talking about how lukewarm you are about them.
When we talked about Correa, because Correa publicly said, I'd boo me too. He said, I'm making a whole lot of money, and, sometimes it doesn't work. Guys are in the training room. Guys are laying on the line. Because bandwagon with us. And as I said yesterday, and I'm going to repeat myself because I don't know if you were listening yesterday, but I'm glad that, it's one of those things, though, most people go, that's a stand-up guy. Matter of fact, Morton Oben mentioned it yesterday in the telecast. He came out and admitted he's struggling and understands this with the money and all that. And I agree with that, but I can turn that around, which I did yesterday, and say, well, if he continues at this pace and keeps saying it, then the words are just empty anyways, right? And, that's nice that he said that, and because it's obvious. I mean, what else are you supposed to say? I mean, who was Gobert? Didn't Gobert early last season criticize Wolves fans? He was criticizing Will. I remember that he did. Somebody can maybe tell me if I'm correct. I could swear he was annoyed with Wolves fans because he didn't think they were supporting the club enough when they would boo or become disenchanted with the play of the club. Well, that's what ticket buyers do. I've always felt that as a fan you can voice your approval or disapproval of the local teams, as long as you do it in a family-friendly manner. I don't want they're throwing out the F-bombs and they're drunken louts. But if you're out there and saying, we want a pitcher, not a belly itcher. We want a batter, not a broken ladder. You're allowed to do that as long as you don't do it so constantly. You're just, you're ruining the experience for the other fans. But yeah, if you're paying customer, you're paying big bucks. You're allowed to do that. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Tenneby's got a 5-3-4 lined up for us. Should be scintillating. Do you have a tease, please?
Yeah. What is the Vikings' biggest post-draft need?
Jesus free.